my name is Blayne Pacelli. I'm with Rodeo Realty, and today I'm going to talk about seller questions, selling a house, Sherman Oaks, really anywhere. But just a few things. One is getting the house ready for sale. It's very important. Every house is different. If it's empty, I highly recommend getting a stager. I know I pay part staging when there's an empty house. Part staging is 3 to 4 rooms. And that's really all you need. You don't have to stage every room. You just want to get like the living room, one of the main bedrooms, family room, stuff like that. Just so when people come into the house, they can get a really true feeling of where things should be. But if it doesn't need staging, I really highly recommend decluttering as much as possible. That's so important. Is less is better, really. I've seen also people with huge furniture that they need to get rid of some of that furniture to you want to make it look like there's just more room. If there's a ton of pictures, I would recommend getting some pictures down. In the front and the exterior, if you don't have much color, plants and so forth, I recommend getting some plants and some different things just to make the exterior look more inviting. So let's just say you get all that done, you hire the right realtor, and I also recommend when you do look for a realtor to talk to 3 or 4 different realtors. Beside a lot of them do the same thing. Believe me, we're not all the same. A lot of it has to do also with who do you get along with, because you're going to have to deal with that person throughout the entire transaction. If you don't get along with that person, they might be a good realtor, but that's just not fun. I mean, just really talk with them, feel them out, feel that person out. Don't just meet someone at an open house and say, oh, I like that person. Maybe they can't sell a house. Maybe they never sold a house before. You really have no idea, because it's a very interesting time in the market. As a lot of you probably know about the lawsuit that happened in the Midwest. Basically, they're saying that realtors colluded with other realtors to make sellers pay commissions to buyers' agents. So really, that's not how it worked. We don't collude with each other. It was just the best viable option because buyers cannot afford to pay their agents. They're just coming up with a 10%, 15%, maybe 20% down to buy that house. Yes, there are some buyers that can afford to pay commissions, but I would say 90% of buyers cannot. So sellers are getting probably in this market a good amount of equity out of their house. So it's much easier for the seller to pay a buyer's agent. And buyers have agents. Buyers typically don't have a lot of time to go around to properties and look up properties. They need an agent to kind of guide them and show them, where the properties are at and show them around go out on Sundays with them or Saturdays, find the best property for them, and they need someone to represent them. If the seller decides, oh, I don't want to offer commission towards a buyer's agent, well, the problem is the buyer's agent's not going to show up because they're not making any money. And if a buyer goes to the listing agent directly, and let's just say I'm the listing agent, and a buyer comes to me and is like, hey, would you represent me? Well, I'm not going to represent that person for no commission. And the biggest reason for that is because in our business, there's a lot of lawsuits. And if I'm representing both the seller and the buyer, chances of getting sued just doubled. To be honest, it's really hard to represent both sides because once a buyer does all the inspections, they're going to want a credit probably for things that need to be done. And the seller doesn't want to do a credit. So to try to appease both the seller and the buyer, it's a very difficult transaction. You're gonna make someone upset. So I try not to do both sides. I like to just work with my person, the seller typically. I work with a lot of listings, and I want to make that person happy, or people. I want to make everybody happy, get the best price, try to negotiate the best deal all around, and make it a friendly, easier escrow. A lot of the escrows these days, though, are getting a lot more difficult. People are having a harder time getting loans, even though the interest rates have gone down. A lot of the deals lately are just much harder. So just so you know, also, let's just say put your house on the market, we get some offers. Now, the highest offer is not always the best offer, because there are agents that come in high purposely and then beat you down into escrow because they want a new roof, they want everything new, and they want the seller to pay for it. So I like to kind of interview actually the other agent, the other buyers, and try to find out, do they love the house? Because if there are two buyers, let's say, one absolutely loves the house, and the other one is, they like it, it might work for them, but they're probably going to keep looking. You can just tell. And the people that absolutely love the house might be a little bit lower offer. Well, I would highly recommend you go with the person who loves the house, because they're going to do everything they can to remain in escrow and close the property. You also have to know, once you get into escrow, the sellers cannot back out. Buyers really kind of hold all the power from there. There are contingencies, there are inspection contingencies, appraisal contingencies, loan contingencies. So they're all, let's just say the inspections. That's probably the biggest hurdle right now, is to make sure that the buyer's happy, the seller's happy. So the buyer wants to move forward, the seller wants to move forward, and so forth. If the agent price it properly, then there shouldn't be an issue with the appraisal. And a lot of listing agents don't talk to the buyer's mortgage broker just to get a little bit more idea, because let's just say the buyer has a pre-approval. Well, just because they have a pre-approval doesn't mean they're actually qualified to buy your house. And a lot of mortgage brokers, they'll ask very minimal questions to the buyer. Ask them some questions: how much do you owe, how much do you make, and so forth and so on, but they don't get proof. And unfortunately, there are buyers that lie or really don't know. So not until the mortgage person really gets into it and finds out if they're qualified, do they pay alimony and so forth. There's just a lot of things that needs to be done before that buyer can actually get that loan. So it's very important to try to go up front and ask probing questions to the loan officer. Are they W-2'd? Are they 1099? Because that makes a difference. Because 1099 is a harder loan to do versus someone that's W-2'd. And there's just a lot of questions that a good listing agent will ask, that just to find out, yes, they're probably qualified and they'll probably get the loan, but they still have that contingency period. So let's just say all the contingencies are removed: the inspection, the appraisal, the loan. And let's just say there's another 14, 15 days till the close of escrow. Well, the buyer can still back out. They can really back out at any time. But after they release the contingencies, and let's just say they want to back out after that, let's say day 25, well, then the seller can go after the deposit. The buyer typically puts in a 3% deposit into escrow. But a lot of sellers think, I get all that money. If they back out, I get that whole deposit. Well, that's definitely not true. usually go to an arbitrator, mediator, and it's up to them to decide how much money you get. But you also have to remember that if you do decide to go to mediation and so forth, that house is tied up. You cannot put it back on the market and get it into escrow until that's all taken care of. So is it worth it? You really have to look at the market. Is the market going down? Is it going straight across, or is it going up? Because you might say, well, even though we had to take it off the market for a while and we had to put it back on, it's better than trying to get a deposit that you might not get that much of. So there's a lot of different things when you get into escrow and when you sell a house. So it's very important to hire a professional realtor, one that really knows what they're doing, especially in the market today, because the contract is getting harder and harder. There's so much that the buyers can easily back out of, and a good listing agent will go through everything and make it a little bit more difficult for that to happen. My name is Blayne Pacelli. I would love to help you. My number is 310-383-6281, 310-383-6281. Thank you.